Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome today to Saturday at Imola, qualifying day at Imola for the second Grand Prix of 2021, the 2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And I'm looking forward especially to qualifying later, as we all are, because it's going to be another great battle between, well, everyone basically. The midfield is still looking so close, and we've got maybe different front runners at the head of that midfield battle. Also, the battle for pole position is looking maybe like a Mercedes one, but we don't know that for sure because Max Verstappen, I'm sure in practice and in this session we're going to be covering in about, 15 minutes time. I'm sure after the problem he had yesterday that he will respond and will show, hopefully, the speed that he'll be, that he'll show that he'll be close enough for pole position in 3 hours or 4 hours from now. So I think we are in again for a very interesting practice 3 to see where everyone is. And then for qualifying, I think qualifying will take care of itself and be, again, a very exciting session. Hopefully you guys are doing well on what is a Saturday morning for me. As you can hear in my voice, that's why it's so deep. I'm sure it will improve as the day goes on, of course, because I will be doing a qualifying stream later on and then a race preview. But yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well, no matter what time it is in your part of the world. And hopefully you will watch along today. Practice 3 with me from Imola. If you can't watch the session though, because you don't have, the money to watch Formula 1, if you don't have a paid subscription, if you're too busy, then you can just put me on as basically a radio commentary, and I will take you through the session that will be starting in about 12 minutes time. So, before we get into, though, how the teams have done so far and kind of a mini preview for practice 3, let me just first get into, I think, the most important results of the weekend so far, which was practice 2 that took place yesterday in relatively warm conditions. And I think it was a very interesting session, maybe except for the top 2, but after that, it looked quite, again, intriguing and interesting for this Grand Prix. So, here were the results. So Valtteri Bottas P1 by a very small margin, 0.01 of a second to Lewis Hamilton. Pierre Gasly third, great performance, and he's looking just as good as he was last year at this track. Carlos Sainz fourth and Charles Leclerc fifth. Ferrari, as I said in my preview, I thought they would be good here, and they are for sure. Sergio Perez 6th, Yuki Tsunoda 7th, and then Norris, Giovinazzi, and Stroll complete the top 10. And then the rest of the order is Ocon, very impressively, Nicholas Latifi 12th. That, again, is very, very impressive. Fernando Alonso 13th, and Max Verstappen 14th. Of course, Max Verstappen did have a problem with his car. I believe it was a drive shaft problem with his car. That's why he broke down on the pit straight in yesterday's session. Sebastian Vettel 15th. I will say this season so far for Sebastian just hasn't really picked up at all. In practice yesterday, didn't really look at home with the car. I'm hoping though that'll improve in this session coming and qualifying as well. And then at the back, you have George Russell, Kimi Raikkonen, Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo, the reason he was 18th is because he had a lap time deleted. That's not because he's actually that slow. I'm sure he can probably get into the top 10, or could have got into the top 10 in yesterday's session. And of course, at the back, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. I was going to call him Mazepin then. Mazepin. I will say though, Mazepin has a lot better ring to it than Mazepin. So probably will start just calling him that eventually. But it is good to see from Haas that they aren't, at least with Mick Schumacher, they're not that far off, say, Williams or Alfa Romeo compared to what it was in Bahrain. In Bahrain, they looked miles off, so definitely looking much better, but they're still, struggling quite a bit. Anyway, those are the results from practice 2. And let's just get into, sorry, these pictures as we're about, 10 minutes away from starting off the session. So, how is it looking then going into the session? Well, I think without a doubt, and Mercedes even come out and said it, they are definitely looking a lot stronger so far this weekend after 2 practice sessions here at Imola than they were after 2 practice sessions in Bahrain. Their car looks way better, a lot more gripped up, and even Martin Brundle said when trackside yesterday for Sky F1 that it looks a lot more like the old dominant 2020 Mercedes. So I think definitely for qualifying later on, they are without doubt the team the team to beat. I don't think Max Verstappen in this session, I mean, he's going to be up there probably in the top 3, but I don't see, Max Verstappen being, going P1 by 2 or 3 tenths of a second in this session. I just don't see it because I don't think Red Bull this weekend quite have the car to be as quick as it was in Bahrain. I just don't think Red Bull have that kind of car this weekend. I'm sure Max Verstappen, though, will still be right up there and in there with Bottas and Hamilton, but it has to be, at the minute, Mercedes as the favourites, without doubt. It has to be, because they've just looked so comfortable and dominant, really, since the weekend began. So, looking great for Mercedes and great for myself in terms of predictions for the season, because, of course, Bahrain in qualifying and in the race as well was a bit of a surprise that Max Verstappen and Red Bull were so quick. But now, at the minute, so far, looks as though it's returned back to the old normal. We'll see, though, in practice, because, of course, in this session coming up, the engine modes that they're going to be using in this session will be the ones they're using in qualifying and the race as well. So this session will be, I think, without doubt, the most representative and a lot more representative than practice 2, because in practice 2 they could play around with it a lot more. So I think we'll see a response from Max Verstappen without doubt, but I don't think it'll be, again, P1 or anything like that. And then in the midfield, it looks as though the 2 quickest teams are either Ferrari and then AlphaTauri, or AlphaTauri then Ferrari. Hard to say at the minute who is ahead. Very hard to say. It really does come down to the drivers, I think, in terms of who's going to finish ahead in that battle in this session coming up and also qualifying. Because I think they are so close, and they are both cars are very well suited to this circuit, clearly, as we've seen so far this weekend. I think it will be probably Ferrari ahead of AlphaTauri, because, again, I think AlphaTauri, despite having an overall good car, I don't think they have quite the driver lineup that Ferrari have, and I do think the Ferrari has a tad more grip than the AlphaTauri does. So I think Ferrari will probably end up being the 3rd quickest team today. That might not translate to tomorrow, but we'll see on that. But I think today, Ferrari will be ahead of AlphaTauri. And then it looks as though McLaren, like I said in my preview, which if you haven't seen, by the way, make sure to check that out. It's in the description down below, I believe. McLaren look as though they are 5th quickest team. I think they're definitely quicker than Aston Martin, Alpine, Alfa Romeo. But they just don't quite look as though, in qualifying trim at least, that they have the grip of the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari, which is basically similar to what happened in Bahrain, where in qualifying trim, they weren't as quick as those two. And then in the race, they had probably, maybe not the quickest midfield car, because I think the AlphaTauri was actually the quickest midfield car in Bahrain in the race. I think Pierre Gasly's lap times show that, even though, of course, he finished or was very low down a lot of the time because of that contact he had. But McLaren's race pace was a lot stronger. I think with McLaren, you will see them a lot stronger in the race than you will today, because I think race pace is a lot stronger a point for them. And then after that, after, in the midfield, Ferrari, AlphaTauri and McLaren, it's really anyone's, it's up for grabs. It really is. You've got Giovinazzi in there, Stroll, Vettel, Alonso, Ocon, Raikkonen, Russell, possibly. If Latifi keeps up his great performance, we'll see on that. I can't predict really P11 to I'd say 18. I think the back row will still be this today, later in qualifying. I still think it will be the two Haas drivers, but like I said, very hard to predict P11 to 18 because it could be anyone finishing at the front or back of that, section of drivers. And I think when it comes to Ferrari and AlphaTauri even, say between P5 and P8, or if McLaren can get in there, from P5 to P10, it is still not easy at all to predict what is going to happen. As on the TV broadcast, the F1 intro is now playing, and we're, about 3 minutes away from the session getting underway. But yeah, I think if you look at the order so far this weekend, it's a bit more kind of like it used to be, I guess you would say. You've got Mercedes, I think, returning to have definitely the quickest car this weekend from what we've seen so far. Of course, I'm willing to change my opinion on that based on evidence of this session or qualifying later on. But it looks as though you've got Mercedes quickest, and then Red Bull second, and then Ferrari look as though they are now into the top 3 quickest cars on the grid, which is, of course, what Ferrari were at worst, used to doing a few years ago. So it's kind of reverted again, like I said earlier, to the old normal. Of course, AlphaTauri being as quick as they are is not a normal thing, but you see what I mean. But I think we're definitely in for a session today in practice, which I could see a few surprises being thrown in there that we don't quite see happening, and we possibly get, a new talking point going into qualifying. Arvin, let me just read the chat to see what you guys have to say. Michael Arvin, hello and good morning to you. Michael Arvin saying, good morning, Tonker, I'm shocked you were up this early. Dabs and coffee for breakfast of champions. And then says, massive spin. It's massive spin. To be honest, I have $100 on him being out by the 5th corner in the Grand Prix. Yeah. I don't think there's much more I can say on that. Yeah, that I could see him going up by the 1st corner at every Grand Prix this season. he is one of those drivers that could easily do that. And I think what I'm going to do is, now we have about a minute to go, I think what I'm going to do is get some of the pictures ready. So let me just, or not pictures, some of the graphics ready. So let me just do that for you guys. So hold on a minute. By the way, this sidebar, this order, this is the finishing order from the Bahrain Grand Prix. I haven't updated it since my last watch along, so that's why it's remaining in that way. Of course, when every driver sets their first competitive time of the session, I will update it with the, proper the proper order as soon as possible. And of course, FP3 it is. Let me just adjust. There you go, and get the timer ready as well. In case you are new to Formula 1, Practice 3 and all the practice sessions now are just an hour long. And in this session, because, again, of the new rule that came in last year, which I think is a really good thing, by the way, from Practice 3 on, the teams have to use the engine mode they're going to be using for the rest of the weekend. That's a single engine mode, and I think it's made Practice 3 definitely now the most representative session of the weekend. And I think it's really improved things for this, session, rather than still being not really in the know as to what's happening out there. So it is, I think, a great thing. Right, got the timer ready for you guys. The session should be underway in a few seconds' time. Not seeing... and yep, they have started the session, but they failed to show the timer in time, so I'll sync it up in just a moment. But the session is underway, and the first car on track is Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo on the medium compound tyres. And Kimi yesterday massively outperformed, you have to say, by his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. Räikkönen was down in, 17th place? And Giovinazzi was up in 9th. I know it's Antonio's home race and that, but Kimi does have to improve a lot his qualifying performance, because his race performances are really good and his pace during a Grand Prix is still really good. But he does need to close that gap to Antonio over the course of a single lap without doubt, as I'll sync up the timer right now. And I'll just adjust the position. There you go. So there are there's only a minute and 15 seconds gone in this session. As yet, Kimi Räikkönen at the minute looks as though he's the only car on track from what I can see. By the way, hello to other guys in the chat. As just seeing Max Verstappen, I think, coming out of the Red Bull motorhome to come into the Red Bull pits to get into the car. As I'll move on to a different set of pictures now. You guys, there you go, a lovely picture of Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. I will say, as well, with the Ferrari livery that we did discuss during pre-season testing in the first Grand Prix, I still don't like the green, but I am warming to it as an overall livery. It doesn't actually... I do like the darker shade of red towards the rear end of the car. To be honest, I wish they had, for this year, gone with that livery they had in Mugello, the darker red, because I thought that was the best looking Ferrari we've had in so long. But I think this Ferrari car, it does look nice. It does look nice. Just the green, I think, ruins it a bit. But yeah, Räikkönen at the minute, only car on track, as on the TV broadcast we're watching Yuki Tsunoda. I want to say preparing to get in the car, but I'm sure he'll be in the car soon enough. And now we're seeing Sergio Perez. No action at the minute of Kimi Räikkönen. And Sergio Perez, I have to say, so far this weekend has not had a good weekend. Collided with Esteban Ocon in practice 1 and suffered I guess you could say, a tyre blowout as a result of that. And then was only P6 in practice 2, even though his teammate was down in 14th. So, yeah, Red Bull, that's why I say with Red Bull, they're not looking too, too quick, because I would have expected Perez to be, say, P4 really yesterday, considering what the pace of the Red Bull was in Bahrain, but that never really materialized yesterday. So yeah, that's why for Red Bull I think it's a bit of a worry so far, their speed. As Räikkönen, he did set the first lap time of practice 3, but it's been deleted because of track limit violation at turn 9. Which I'm sure we'll see plenty of in this session, and plenty of in qualifying especially as well. But he's the only man on track as he's coming through, or coming up to the turn 14 and 15 chicane towards the end of the lap. And he's basically preparing himself for, I think, another proper run. As on the TV broadcast it's showing now, track limits at turn 9, which is the uphill left-hander. And many people were caught falling foul of that last year, as I think sometimes it was a bit too extreme in its application of that rule. And this time, let's see, Räikkönen... I mean, yeah, he is just over the white line, but it's barely over the white line for, a brief second. It's not anything clear like it was at turn 4 in Bahrain, for example, when they were trying to set lap times on the course of that Saturday afternoon. But yeah, as Kimi Räikkönen is on another flying lap, so let's see what this Alfa Romeo is looking like. As he comes through turn 9 again, will he violate track limits? Don't think he did that time from that camera angle we saw. And now into turn 11 and 12, car looks pretty good. Interestingly, George Russell said that this Alfa Romeo, to him, from racing against it or watching it on track, is like the Red Bull of the midfield, which I think is if that turns out to be true, that's a very good compliment, and I think very good thing going forward for the rest of the season. Yeah, I will say, I thought in Bahrain they were unlucky to not get a point because they did have certainly the pace to do so. As Raikkonen will come up to the line, set another lap time, and obviously go P1 because he's the only person to set a time. 1:17.3. That's actually a pretty good lap time for a first, what should be legal lap time. Because I think already he's gone quicker than he did in practice too. As we have got 2 other cars on track, the 2 Haases of Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Let's see if Mazepin can go a session without spinning or complaining about driving on ice. But yeah, Raikkonen was properly on it on that lap, and I couldn't really see any weaknesses. He did do a bit of a curb hop on the first part of the turn 14-15 chicane. By the way, sorry if I don't remember some of the names of some of the corners. I know I remember some of the names, I just can't remember where they are exactly. I mean, of course, I know Tamburello, first 2 or 3 corners. The Villeneuve chicane, Tosa, I remember those. It's just the second half of the lap, which is difficult for myself. I'll try to remember if I can. As here is now Mick Schumacher on his first time to run on the soft compound tyre. Let's see what Mick can do. And Mick, I think this weekend should still definitely be ahead of Nikita Mazepin, because clearly getting better suited to this Haas than Nikita. And also, this is another circuit I'm pretty sure Mick has raced at before, which will help massively compared to the other tracks we'll be going to this year where he's not raced at. And a lot of understeer at turn 9. Lot of understeer at turn 9. Turn 10. 11 and 12. I mean, car looks very oversteering on the exit of turn 13. But, you can visually see this Haas car just does not look like it's in the same league, really, as, say, even an Aston Martin. So, clear to see this car just is really poor. And a bit of understeer going into the final corner, and now comes up to the line and will go clearly slowly. 1.3 seconds down on Kimi Räikkönen, and Mazepin goes about 0.4 of a second slower than Mick Schumacher, and that's despite Räikkönen doing his time on a set of medium tyres. So and Mick Schumacher has actually had his time deleted, so Mazepin goes second. Repeat though, he is 1.8 seconds off the pace on a softer compound of tyre compared to Kimi Räikkönen. So I think clear evidence seen there that they are very, very slow, Haas, which is a shame, but they've decided for this season to just give it up and fully concentrate on 2022, which if it does pay off for them, then great, but they better hope it does, because this season will just be seen as a complete waste of time if that is the case. Let me look at the chat quick. Simon Troop asks, do you think that all the races this year will go ahead as planned? Well, Canada is, by the looks of it, cancelled, which is, their own, I wouldn't say as a people, but as a authority, it's Canada's fault and Montreal's fault as to why that Grand Prix can't go ahead, because they should be on top of the virus by now, especially with, the vaccine being around now. It's not like a year ago when we were still not really knowing what was going to happen. So you can only blame them. But yeah, it looks as though Canadian Grand Prix is cancelled, and the replacement, it looks as though, and it should be, to be honest, from a logistical point of view, it should be Turkey as the replacement, because going from Baku to Turkey logistically makes more sense, as Mazepin has a massive oversteer moment in through turn 2 and collects it though. But yeah, going from Baku to Turkey, as a back-to-back, makes a lot more logistical sense than going from Baku to Montreal, which is the original plan. So it'd actually be better, I think, for the teams if it was Baku and then Turkey. Of course, we want Canada on the calendar, but, they've just failed with by the sounds of it, their vaccination program. So that's why they won't be hosting a Grand Prix, by the looks of it, this year. And simply Mazepin turned into what is really the second real turn of the track, and the car was like, no, and he oversteered and very nearly went into the gravel. Yeah, that Haas car looking very, very poor. As we have another car on track now, and it is the other Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi, as Mick Schumacher goes second on a 1:17.8, half a second off Kimi Räikkönen. Still very slow though for Haas, as everyone else, 12 minutes into the session, is still in the pits. Michael Arvin asks, has Mazepin made it a full lap at all in an F1 car? No. Well, he's only had one race in an F1 car, and that was Bahrain. And of course, he was out after, 3 corners? So, yeah. Let me look at some other comments here quick. Corey says Ferrari should go back to the shiny paint again like 2018. This matte is not the one. I actually like the matte finish they have. I like it. I think the problem with the livery, this year's livery at least, is again the green. I don't like the green at all. I think the green looks really bad on the red, without doubt. And then I get, like I said earlier, I think after the livery they went with Mugello, which I think was probably the most beautiful Ferrari we've seen since, say, the late parts of Michael Schumacher's run at Ferrari, say 2006, 2004, something like that. I think it was the best looking Ferrari livery I'd seen since then. And I don't know why they didn't go for that, because it looked so good, especially in the sunlight. It looked incredible, and it would have been a beautiful car for this season. But they've got sponsors, of course, that they want to they need to really keep happy, and that's why they've gone for what they've gone for. But we are currently on an ad break now, so can't tell you what's going on the track, but I'm guaranteed when we come back, there'll probably still be 4 or 5 cars on track. And again, the order you see on the left, if you are watching and not just listening, the order on the left is not the current order. That's the order from the Bahrain Grand Prix, of course. Once every driver has set their first competitive time of the session, then I will update it. But I think what I'm going to do, now that we're on an ad break and nothing's really going on, I'm going to quickly have a drink to clear my throat a bit. So I'm going to just quickly do that. And there you go. Feels a lot better now. Right. So while there's a break in the action, really, if you guys want to ask anything in the chat or talk about anything F1 wise, then yeah, go for it. Because, like I said, at the minute, not much going on, sadly, at the start of Practice 3, which I think was the case, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's only been 3 weeks, but I've already forgot most of what happened in Bahrain. Can't really remember Practice 3 that much. I know Max Verstappen was quickest, but I can't remember it being this not boring, but lack of action so far. You know, lack of cars on track. Can't remember it being like that so far. So, well, now we're back from the ad break, and hopefully there'll be cars on track, and there is, thankfully. So, Antonio Giovinazzi set his first time and has gone 5th quickest. Fernando Alonso is now 3rd quickest in the Alpine, which is, well, let's hope that's not a proper competitive run behind the Haas of Mick Schumacher. As Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz are currently doing their first lap time of the session. And Charles Leclerc is currently on the medium tyre and about to start his first flying lap here in practice 3 at Imola. He was great yesterday, so was Carlos Sainz as well. So let's see what Ferrari can do. And let's see if Ferrari do have, now that the engine modes have been decided, let's see what the pace of the Ferrari really is. Bit of oversteer on the exit of the first corner, as he now comes up to the Villeneuve chicane. And the car looks pretty good through there. 3.5 tenths though down on Kimi Räikkönen after the first sector, which is a big surprise, to be honest. As he now comes up to turn 9. And does he exceed track limits? No, he does not. And now comes into turn 11, 12, and 13. And the car looks very good and clearly better than anything else we've seen so far in this session through there. Purple middle sector. But still, 1/4 of a second down on Räikkönen overall for the lap, as he has now only 2 corners to go. The 2 left-handers at the end of the lap. Deals with the first one fine. The second one, where he crashed yesterday, looks okay. And now comes to the line and he goes P1 by, 10 hundredths of a second. As Giovinazzi goes 4th. Carlos Sainz is 3rd. Ocon has set a time, but I think it was deleted maybe because it's 15 seconds off the pace. Daniel Ricciardo is now on an outlap. I'm surprised though by Kimi Räikkönen's pace though, because I mean Leclerc on that lap, unless he's running a load of fuel, he looked as though he was pushing pretty hard, and he's only just that tiny bit quicker. And Carlos Sainz, of course, slower. As now Fernando Alonso goes 3rd. Alonso a 10th behind Charles Leclerc. As Ricciardo on his outlap, he is also on the medium compound. We just saw a clip on the TV broadcast of, I think, a Mercedes about to come out on a set of soft compound tyres. As Ricciardo here, warming his tyres up and also trying to pass, I think, the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. And is Carlos Sainz blocking him? I think he was a bit there. And now Daniel Ricciardo has backed off, but at least Ricciardo not on a lap, because that would have been a serious infringement for Carlos Sainz. As Ricciardo starts his lap, even though it wasn't really, he didn't maximise, I think, the exit of the final corner. Now comes onto the pit straight, DRS wide open, as you've now got Lando Norris on track and Sergio Perez. Perez on a set of mediums as well. As Ricciardo into turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's see how he handles the Villeneuve chicane. Bit of movement in the middle part of the chicane. He is, though, a 10.5 up on Charles Leclerc so far. Not really a surprise, though. The McLaren should be quicker in that first sector, because it is the fastest part of the track. And, of course, the McLaren is a bit quicker in a straight line, or in power terms, than the Ferrari. It's the second and third sector where the Ferrari really shows its strengths. As Ricciardo comes up to the middle sector now. And he is about, or just under a 10th down. Again, showing that the Ferrari in the, from the second sector on, is a much quicker car than the McLaren. Charles Leclerc, half a second up after 2 sectors on his previous lap time. So this is going to be a great lap time from Charles Leclerc. as Ricciardo rounds the final corner. Carlos Sainz goes P1 on a 1 minute 16.9. Ricciardo P7, a second down. I have to say, by watching it, it wasn't a great lap as Charles Leclerc comes to the line and goes P1. Does not improve his final sector, but goes P1 by a tenth of a second from Carlos Sainz. As Antonio Giovinazzi does an impressive lap time to go P3. Only, just under 4 tenths down on the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. As we now have Lando Norris and Sergio Perez on their first lap time. And now Nicholas Latifi on an out lap as well. And now Lance Stroll. And now here comes Valtteri Bottas. And I'm sure Lewis Hamilton as well. And now we're going to get cars on track. And now we're going to see what the big boys have in this session. Also, George Russell on track. Let's see what Sergio Perez is doing on the medium tyre. Not a purple first sector, which I think is a bit of a surprise as he comes into the mid-sector point. Let's see what his middle sector time is. It is half a second down on Charles Leclerc on the same compound. That is very surprising. As Esteban Ocon goes 6th, about a tenth of a second down on his teammate Alonso. Lando Norris goes 3rd. That's a good time. 1 minute 16.9. As Sergio Perez comes now to the end of the lap. This lap has not really looked that special at all. And yeah, P10. Yeah. I don't know if he's not pushing as hard as he could or he's made a mistake, but that lap just never really looked like it was hooked up at all from what we got to saw of it. But yeah, he is P10 at the moment as Bottas is on an out lap. Now is Sebastian Vettel. The only cars that have not come out on track at all are the 2 AlphaTauris of Gasly and Tsunoda and Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen, though, it looks as though is going to come out on track in the next minute or two. So once we get all the first drivers' lap times on the board for this session, I will update that order as soon as I can. But at the minute, with 37 and a half minutes to go, it is Leclerc from Sainz, and then Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Ocon, Alonso, Mick Schumacher, Daniel Ricciardo, Nikita Mazepin, and then Lando Norris has had his time deleted, so has Sergio Perez. Only 9 times on the board so far. Here we go. Valtteri Bottas, soft compound tyre. Let's see. And, well, he's backed off, clearly. So, not going to be setting a competitive time for this first lap. Looks as though he's probably just going to warm his tyres up. As Daniel Ricciardo goes 4th. Just ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. As he has Kimi Raikkonen behind him, does Valtteri Bottas, as Carlos Sainz is on an out lap. Lando Norris has not just done a slow lap. I'm sure now he's on a quick lap as Giovinazzi improves his lap time again. And he's on a 1 minute 17 point flat. Nicholas Latifi goes P4 on a 17 flat. I don't know why Latifi's been so quick this weekend. It's not like last year at this track he was so quick. I don't understand it really. But he was what, P12 and ahead of his teammate comfortably in practice too. And now, first lap time bangs in a great time. And Russell half a second slower on his first time. As Russell sets his first time. Vettel sets his, goes a tenth quicker than Lance Stroll, which is a positive for him. As Lewis Hamilton now on track on the soft compound of tyre. I don't know, though, what the AlphaTauris are on. Because they're on track now, but I don't know what compound they're on. So once I know that, I will let you guys know. As Sergio Perez, is he on another lap? Yes, he is. Let's see what Sergio Perez can do. Hopefully a lot better than his first time that was deleted. Ocon just improved his time to a 17.3. Norris goes up to 6th on a 17.2. As Sergio Perez comes up to the line and goes P1 by a tenth and a half. That is a lot more like it, but Charles Leclerc is on another lap. And he comes to the line, Charles Leclerc, and goes P1 by 0.3 of a second. I mean, we saw this last year with Charles Leclerc outperforming expectations in the Ferrari, but with the Ferrari being much improved this year, and him continuing this form, he is looking like definitely the dark horse for qualifying later. I mean, and well, he's now had his lap time deleted, as Charles Leclerc, but the whole weekend really, and Carlos Sainz too, they've been so quick. So you've got to watch out for Ferrari for a possible surprise. As Valtteri Bottas goes P1 on a 1 minute 16.4, quarter of a second quicker than Sergio Perez. As now Lewis Hamilton starts his first proper run of practice 3. Let's see what he can do. Yellow flag in sector 1 and sector 2. Don't know why. Oh, it's a Williams. Is it Nicholas Latifi, I think, in the barriers? Yes, it is. As Bottas has his time deleted. Another lap time deletion. Nicholas Latifi. And it's a red flag. He's gone off on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane. The turn 5-6 chicane. Looks as though he's just gone straight on. Or he's turned into the first part of the chicane and the car is pirouetted. But I think, and yet Latifi now backing out the barriers, thankfully can get going again. Has though lost quite a bit of his front wing. Hopefully he doesn't drop any debris on the circuit. But yes, session has been red flagged. Of course, the timer will keep running. But I think now that we've got a red flag, I'm going to update some of the order that we've got so far. And yep, Latifi, well, he didn't even drop in the first part. He got to the second part, turned into the second part of the chicane, and the car just oversteered and just refused to go through the corner and just oversteered him into the barrier. Thankfully, though, he wasn't knocked out of the session. But at the minute, it is Perez P1. And then Leclerc is in second position with Carlos Sainz third. Alfa Romeo, I have to say, looking a lot stronger so far. Raikkonen fourth, Giovinazzi fifth. Of course, we still have, the Mercedes, the AlphaTauris, Lando Norris and Max Verstappen to set their first proper time. So I'm sure they'll drop, but they're looking pretty good, I think, for a decent result later on. And yet, Giovinazzi in fifth, and then Nicholas Latifi, despite that mistake, up in sixth place, half a second quicker than George Russell. If he can do that in qualifying and have a good race result, I'd honestly put him as one of my drivers of the weekend on those, or on that form, because I personally do rate, as you guys know, Russell very highly, and I think a lot of you do as well. So if you can do that and keep that up, then what a performance by Nicholas. Rest of the top 10 though, Alonso in P7, then Ricciardo in P8, Esteban Ocon P9. Got to say, Alpine still look pretty slow. I don't see them having a chance of getting to the top 10 later. And I'd have to say the same about Aston Martin as well, who look as though they're slower than Alpine even, and have done. I know Stroll was in the top 10 yesterday, but that was, there were circumstances behind that. Verstappen being down because of his problem and Ricciardo not setting a time for a proper legal time. But yeah, Alpine and Aston Martin are definitely having a big struggle so far this season, as you've got Vettel P11, Lance Stroll in 12th. At least for Vettel, he's ahead of Stroll so far in this session. And then you've got Mick Schumacher in 13th place. Mazepin. Every time I say Mazepin, I just want to say Mazepin because it just sounds better and more natural. Oh, God. I'm sure eventually I'm just going to call him that. Bottas 15th. Bottas hasn't set a proper time yet. Lando Norris is in 16th place. And then you've got Tsunoda in 17th, Hamilton 18th, Gasly 19th, and Verstappen 20th. Those four at the bottom, though, have not actually set a lap time at all. I'm sure, of course, they will in the next few minutes, whereas we are halfway through the session. And, of course, half an hour to go in practice 3. And I just want to say, I'll remind you guys that I will be live later on at 12:30 PM UK time, which is in exactly 2 hours from now, for a qualifying watch-along for the 2021 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe for that video and hit the notifications bell. You can subscribe by going to the bottom right of the screen and clicking subscribe right there, or just go to my channel page. And as well, don't forget to share this video everywhere and smash the like button as well. And I'm looking forward to qualifying for sure. I think we still don't know really. I mean, of course, I will show my predicted order for qualifying, when I do the build-up to qualifying in a couple hours. But there's a high chance I'm going to be wrong. There is a really high chance I'm going to be wrong. I can already tell. I think you guys will see once I show that to you guys later on. But let me just read some comments from the chat quickly, as we're just coming back on Sky F1 from an ad break. Supercow says, this race smells like carnage. I'm hoping you meant smells and not spells. As the red flags has gone away and Valtteri Bottas is now on a proper run as the AlphaTauri there gets out of the way. I'm sure Mick Schumacher will as well, as Bottas comes up to turn 9. Michael Arvin says in the chat, unless something crazy happens, Carlos is on his last F1 contract. If he can beat or stay competitive with Charles, that might, and I stress, might save him. If it does, Carlos will be at a backmarker team, but I think last contract for him. I'm very surprised you say that, because I mean, he's still young. He's been in Formula 1 since he was, again, very young, and he's still pretty young considering, if you look at Hamilton, Vettel, Raikkonen, Alonso, Perez, drivers like that. I don't think that at all. I think Carlos Sainz is still going to be around in Formula 1 for another 5 years at the very least. As Bottas comes to the line and does not improve his lap time. Stays in 15th place as Lewis Hamilton goes up to P7 on the soft compound tyre. I'm sure, though, he can go a lot quicker than that. As now as an AlphaTauri on medium tyres, I think about to set a time, so we'll see what he can do. Here is Max Verstappen. He's set a green first sector, now a purple middle sector. Quarter of a second up on Sergio Perez. And Verstappen now coming down to the final 2 corners, and as long as he keeps it together, should be, for Max, P1. As he comes up to the line, and Gasly goes 6th on medium tyres. Max Verstappen goes P1 by 0.4 of a second. Good time there for Max Verstappen, as Valtteri Bottas is on another lap. Let's see what Valtteri can do. I'll make sure, by the way, to update the order in a moment once Tsunoda, Norris and Bottas set their proper times, which they're about to. Valtteri Bottas on a soft compound tyre. He will come to the line and surely go P1. Yes, he does by 1/4 of a second. On a 1 minute 15.9. I have to say, Bottas has looked the best driver and the driver most likely for pole position out there so far this weekend. And of course, replicating his form from the last weekend at Imola is a replay of Mick Schumacher, the Villeneuve chicane, oversteers in the second part, or on the entry to the second part, and almost does a Nicholas Latifi. As Lando Norris or Yuki Tsunoda has just gone up to 15th place, which is a bit poor. Lance Stroll goes P4 on the medium. That's a good time. As Lando Norris comes up to the line and goes P3. As Max Verstappen has his time deleted for a track limits violation. So, let me try and update some of the order. So you've got Bottas P1 I will say Sergio Perez is looking a lot stronger than he did in Bahrain. And if he can keep this up, this type of form up into qualifying, and hopefully Red Bull do not try to start him on the medium, I think Perez is looking good here. Hamilton, 0.02 of a second down after the first two sectors compared to Valtteri Bottas. Can he get this final sector right and go P1? Let's see. Final corner. He doesn't quite use as much of the track as he probably could. Comes to the line though, and he goes P2. And what? Just under 0.2 down on Valtteri Bottas. So it is a Mercedes 1-2 from Perez third in the Red Bull. As Max Verstappen here is on another run. And on the exit of turn 13, got wide onto the little hop curbs. And it sent the car up in the air briefly. And that, I think he'll have to come back into the pits for that, because I think that might have damaged his car. Not a massive amount by any stretch, but that looked quite dramatic, I have to say. As Lewis Hamilton has his time deleted, I have to say, very hard to update the order when lap times are getting deleted so often. So it's Perez back in second. Lando Norris is in third place. And yeah, got wide on the sausage curb. And it sent the car for a bit of a bounce and up in the air briefly. And it was simply, I think the reason he was that far wide is simply over-aggression, rather, on the throttle. And that's why that happened. But yeah, you've got Norris in third, Stroll in fourth, Charles Leclerc still fifth after that early run. I'm sure Leclerc, once he gets back out there, can do, as Lance Stroll is on another improved lap. He is currently P4. Let's see where Lance Stroll can go with this lap. He goes, or he stays P4, does not improve his lap time, but it looked as though he was going to. Russell, interestingly, in the Williams, has gone up to 6th place. Pierre Gasly is now in 7th position. Carlos Sainz's Perez is on another lap on the medium. He's done a improved first sector and kept it on the track through there, through turn 9, which is the biggest area for track limits, and looked good through turns 10, 11, 12, 13. He's about a 10th down on Bottas. If we can keep this up, this is a really good lap from Perez, because Bottas, remember, did his time on a set of soft tyres. And the gap between the tyres around Imola should be, you know, soft to medium, should be about, say, 3.5 tenths of a second, considering how short the lap is. And Perez comes up to the line, improves his time, about 4.5 tenths down. That's a pretty good lap, though, from Perez. And it shows, again, how strong the medium tyre will be for the Grand Prix, I think. But just completing the rest of the top 10. So you've got Sainz in 8th, and then Raikkonen in 9th. As Gasly at the hairpin. Oversteer on exit, almost into the barriers, gets onto the grass. That would have been a massive surprise. And he says on the radio, "Fuck, I had a big snap." Yep, no shit. As, yep, 2 Alfa Romeos are the ones completing. Well, I say that, and then Sebastian Vettel goes up to 5th place. And Max Verstappen, I think, is about to go up into, is it going to be P1? Yes, it is, by just under 1/10 of a second. Max Verstappen goes P1 on a set of soft tyres. There you go, game on. So Verstappen is up into 1st place. Bottas 2nd. I'll try and get this order updated as quickly as I can. as Vettel has dropped back down now because his lap time was deleted. And then you've got Lando Norris in 4th as Yuki Tsunoda. I was going to say starts the lap, but he's not. He's touring not alarmingly slowly on the pit straight, but he's not exactly flying down to turn 1 or turn 2. They call it turn 2, but it's basically turn 1. And then, yeah, you've got Stroll in 5th, Leclerc 6th, Russell is in 7th place, as Pierre Gasly has just gone P1. I mean, we'll see if it gets deleted or not. Surely it'll get deleted, but he's gone P1 by, I think, a few hundredths of a second. By 5,000ths of a second from Max Verstappen, and Gasly did that time on a harder compound. And Ocon's just gone P4. Surely Gasly will get his time deleted, surely. As Carlos Sainz goes up to 3rd place. And Leclerc now goes P1 on a set of soft tyres. But that time from Gasly, if that doesn't get deleted, that is an incredible time. Again, on a harder compound. That's incredible lap time from Pierre. But it's now Leclerc up in P1. And I have to say, I mean, I thought it would be. Maybe not this much, but it is so close in the whole field. It is so close. There is literally nothing separating a lot of the grid. As Yuki Tsunoda was held up by Perez and said, what? He said, fuck, Perez doesn't even look, and then probably fuck and fuck again. So, yeah, you've got Leclerc P1, Gasly P2, Verstappen 3rd, Carlos Sainz up in 4th place. Valtteri Bottas is now in 5th. He's on an outlap, though. And then you've got Ocon in 6th, Alonso 7th, Alpine, I should add, on a softer compound tyre compared to, I think, most out there. So that's why they are there. Norris is in 9th. Not Norrid. Norris is in 9th place. And then you've got Lance Stroll in P10. Hopefully I can get the order done without it being changed around massively. Russell 11th. And then Raikkonen 12th. Giovinazzi at his home race at the minute in practice 3 is in 13th place. Raikkonen's just gone up to P11. And then you've got Mick Schumacher in 14th place. Nicholas Latifi 15th. Yuki Tsunoda is in 16th place, having a tough time of it because he simply just can't get a lap time on the board that is clean at the minute. And then you've got Vettel, Hamilton 18th, and then 19th is Daniel Ricciardo, and 20th is Nikita Mazepin. I do stress, though, that Tsunoda, Vettel, Hamilton, and Ricciardo have not set a proper lap time as of yet, as we've got just over, or basically, 15 minutes to go until the end of practice 3, as now Lewis Hamilton is on a lap. And purple first sector, green middle sector. We'll see if this ends up being a P1 lap and if it is legal. He comes up to the line, and it is P1 by about a quarter of a second. We'll see if that lap time stays first before we update the order. And yeah, hopefully it does, because I will admit I'm getting pretty sick of lap times being deleted, as Lando Norris is about to improve his time. He's currently sitting in 12th place, and Norris comes up to the line and he goes second That is a great lap from Lando Norris if it's legal. Only 0.02 of a second down on Hamilton on the same compound. Still, though, I think the most impressive lap time so far has to be Pierre Gasly. P4, 0.3 down on a harder compound of tyre as Bottas turns into turn 13. Or turn... Is it turn 13? Yeah, I think it is. Turns in, oversteer, and luckily there is a runoff for him to go on to. As Nicholas Latifi is back on track. And hopefully now will set another good lap time, which he's been setting really all weekend. So let me just update the order again. Hamilton is P1 now from Lando Norris in second. Charles Leclerc third. And then you've got Gasly. I will say again, Gasly ahead of Verstappen on a harder compound of tyre. I mean, if you're Red Bull, well, if you're a Red Bull fan, you've got to be hoping that you're on a bit more fuel, because that's a very serious and impressive lap time by Pierre Gasly. Carlos Sainz is 6th, and then you've got Valtteri Bottas in P7. Alonso is 8th in the Alpine. Ocon is in 9th, and then Sergio Perez is 10th. Perez, though, has not been on track for a while. And then you've got Ricciardo in P11. Let's just see where Nicholas Latifi goes with this lap as he comes through the final corner. Pretty good lap so far. And Russell behind him will get a slipstream for his run. And Latifi goes 14th. I mean, even though he's a 10th down on his teammate, that's still pretty good. I don't think you can put the expectation ever on Nicholas Latifi to beat his teammate. So, yeah, I think that's a good time. Russell 12th. Giovinazzi 13th, and then you got Latifi in 14th place as Yuki Tsunoda saying it's fucking paradise, like traffic paradise. What is this one? Yeah, he basically trying to come through the final two corners to start a lap, and there's too much traffic in front of him, and he's getting very, very angry. Which, well, he'll have to calm that down because he'll have to get used to that in Formula 1 as Lando Norris comes to the line and goes P1 on the same compound of tyre ahead of Lewis Hamilton by 1/10 of a second. Lando Norris banging in a great lap there. I mean, of course, Mercedes are going to respond, but Lando Norris, so far, not just this weekend. And I know, of course, Daniel Ricciardo is new to the team, but Lando Norris so far this season has looked very strong, without doubt. And is now currently P1, which I'll update in a moment. You've got Mick Schumacher, though, in 17th. Yuki Tsunoda is 18th. And then Sebastian Vettel, who has seemingly no luck at the minute, is in 19th place. And then you've got Russell now up to P11 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. I am expecting, though, Ricciardo's performance to improve in qualifying. I don't think he'll be where he is at the minute. Oh, Kimi Räikkönen has gone off the track on the penultimate corner. They just cut to it briefly. Sorry if I scared you guys, but briefly, Räikkönen off the track at the penultimate corner. Must have just locked up and gone straight on. So, that was a bit scary there for the Alfa Romeo. Thankfully, though, he got away with it. But with 10.5 minutes to go in practice 3, let me just see this replay actually first. And as a car on the inside, maybe that distracted him. And To be fair, he doesn't actually really lock up. I mean, he did, but I think he locked up after he really made the mistake. Simply carried too much speed into the corner. Maybe the car on the inside distracted him, I don't know, but he simply just went too fast into the entry and then tried to lock up, or tried to, brake harder, obviously, to stop the car going in, but wasn't the case. But yeah, 10 minutes to go, and the order is Lando Norris in P1 from Lewis Hamilton 2nd, Charles Leclerc 3rd, Pierre Gasly 4th, Max Verstappen 5th, and then Carlos Sainz in 6th, Bottas 7th, Alonso 8th, Ocon 9th, and Ricciardo's now up to 10th. I'll make sure to update the order on the screen in a minute. Perez 11th, Russell 12th, Latifi 13th, and then Giovinazzi 14th, and then Stroll, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Tsunoda, Vettel, Mazepin complete the rest of the order. But let me just update between 10th rather and 13th or 14th. So you've got Perez now down in 12th place as Max Verstappen is on another run. He is on the soft compound tyre again. And car looked fine through the Villeneuve chicane. He's a 10th down on Lando Norris so far. That's very interesting, as he will now come up to turn 9 where you've got to stay on the track, and he does. Now, how will he get through turn 11, 12, 13? Will he get through it fine this time? Yes, he does. Actually, does it really well, and does a purple middle sector, and overall on the lap, he is exactly 1/10 up on Lando Norris. So this looks as though this is going to be P1 for Max Verstappen as he comes into the final 2 corners. Oh, bit of understeer on the penultimate corner. That would have cost him probably half a tenth or something like that. Comes up to the line, should go P1. And he does by 4.5 tenths. That final sector was from another planet. What a final sector. He gained 3.5 tenths on Lando Norris in a chicane and 2 left-handers and a couple mini straights. That is, again, an incredible lap time that we are seeing. We've seen so many incredible lap times so far as, Verstappen up into P1. Norris, still very impressive lap time in 2nd place. Lewis Hamilton is 3rd. Charles Leclerc 4th. Pierre Gasly 5th. Gasly, again, did his time on a set of medium, so I'm sure Pierre can go quicker. Sergio Perez is on a set of soft compound tyres. And he's not improved his first sector, which is interesting. As, his car doesn't look anywhere near as good as Verstappen's through that 11, 12, 13 section. He's about 8 tenths of a second down on Max Verstappen so far on this lap. So I'm sure there's a lot more. Hopefully there's a lot more to come from Sergio Perez. He will come up to the line and he will go from P11 up to only 8th place. That is, that's not good. To be honest, if you're Red Bull, you would have been hoping he would have gone at least into the top 4. But honestly, you would have hoped he would have gone up into 2nd place, considering the gap between Verstappen and the next car. But yeah, it is Sergio Perez up into 8th place. And then Alonso is in 9th now, with Ocon in 12th. And then Daniel Ricciardo pushed down into 11th place. Got to say, Ricciardo looks miles away from where his teammate is at the minute, as Yuki Tsunoda goes up to 13th. Sebastian Vettel, with just under 6 minutes to go, is going to try and set an actual lap time because he is 19th. Let's see what he can do. Can he at least get ahead of his teammate as he comes through the final corner? And Sebastian Vettel will come up to the line, and P12. That's a pretty good lap considering where the Aston Martin is at the moment. So Sebastian up into 12th. So let me just update the order again. So Vettel into 12th place as we've got 5 minutes left in practice 3. Again, guys, remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell for the qualifying watch along that I will be starting in just over an hour and a half from now. Because once this session finishes, I will be probably just coming straight off. So make sure again that you're subscribed and you've got your notifications bell on, and also make sure to join the Discord server, link below in the description. That's another great place to be notified as to videos and streams, as there's a car off the track and in the gravel trap, but he will get going again. Is it Raikkonen again? No, it's Antonio Giovinazzi this time. Yeah, make sure to do all those things so you are notified, so you can come here and watch along or listen along to the session or the qualifying session from Imola. And then don't forget as well, after qualifying at 5 p.m. UK time, which is about 3 hours after qualifying should finish, I will be doing a race preview. So yeah, subscribe if you can. All that content. As let's see a replay of Giovinazzi here. Well, it appears he wasn't even going that quick. Well, went through turn 3, obviously on cold tyres. I don't know if he clipped the inside curb. He did a bit, but that's really, that's down to cold tyres. He shouldn't be spinning that violently into that corner. And as we've seen with these cars the last couple years, tyre warm-up is a very important, critical thing, and a lot harder to do than it used to be. But, yeah, there you go. And Giovinazzi at the minute is down in 16th place with Stroll, who briefly went up to 13th, had his lap time deleted. So he's in 17th, and then you've got Raikkonen in 18th, and then, of course, the two Haas F1 cars. Well, no, Mick Schumacher's just gone up to 15th. And Yuki Tsunoda has just gone up into 12th place. So let me just update that with a couple minutes to go. So Tsunoda up to 12th. Yuki Tsunoda, though, I think can do a lot better than that, without a doubt. As Lewis Hamilton parked in his pits, or in front of his garage. Then he's going to do a practice start in a minute. But I think it looks as though for most of the teams, that's basically the session over. But yeah, Russell is 14th. And then you've got Mick Schumacher now up into 15th place. Nicholas Latifi down to 16th. And then Giovinazzi 17th. And Stroll 18th, Raikkonen 19th, and Mazepin in 20th position. So with about 90 seconds to go, we'll see if anyone's going to improve their time. According to AWS, Max Verstappen is the favourite for pole, ahead of Hamilton, and then Norris is right up there with Bottas, Leclerc, Gasly, Sainz, Perez. Haas F1, according to them, look very slow, which is understandable. That, though, I don't think will play out in qualifying. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think the top three in the grid is going to be Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris, as we'll get on to later on. As just under a minute to go, looks as though most cars are on out laps. I can't really see cars going for another flying lap. I mean, Lando Norris has just come out on a set of mediums. And looks as though he's just going to do, what? Quick, installation run, I guess. All the cars are on track, which is something. But I don't think we're going to get any proper lap times here. in the final 20 seconds as the checkered flag will come down. By the way, for, was it Zinj in the chat? Thank you very much for that. Saying love in the commentary, mate. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that. Let me just look at the chat quick. Someone's saying, bruh, are you seriously punching in all the lap times manually? That's not the way to do it. Well, I don't have a deal with a lap time, what do you call it? A data company or whatever. I don't have a deal with anyone, so I just do it, you know, manually, and it works for me. And, well, I'm going to continue doing it until anyone who's actually interested wants to offer me a deal. But we have had actually a couple lap times come in at the end of the session. And let's just see who it is. Perez has gone up to 4th place from 8th. That's a lot more like it from Sergio Perez. That pushes Charles Leclerc down to 5th. And then Pierre Gasly is in 6th place. By the way, the session has now finished. Not everyone has seen the checkered flag. Well, Nicholas Latifi will, because he's on an outlap and the session's already over. So let me just complete some of the order quickly. Bottas 8th, and then Alonso 9th, Ocon 10th. Yuki Tsunoda has ended up in P11, and there you go, checkered flag for everyone. So, the finishing order, guys, for practice 3 is, and let me just finish some of the back end. So, it's Max Verstappen, P1 by almost half a second to the next car. That definitely puts the cat amongst the pigeons there. Lando Norris 2nd. What a lap time that was. And can he replicate that in qualifying? I'm not sure he can. Be great if he could, though. Ricciardo 13th, just putting that in there. Hamilton 3rd. I think there's a lot more to come from Lewis Hamilton, though, and Mercedes in general, because Valtteri Bottas, remember, is down in 8th place and about 2nd down. So I don't think you can say this is the real pace of Mercedes, but it is Verstappen from Norris from Hamilton. And then in 4th place, Sergio Perez. That's a lot more like it. I still think, though, Perez could probably do with it being a 10th to a 10th and a half quicker in qualifying. If that, say, was, let's say these were the final qualifying results, he could, again, be a 10th and a half quicker, I think, overall. And then Charles Leclerc 5th, Ferrari, still looking pretty good. And then you've got Pierre Gasly 6th. I think definitely a lot more to be shown from him in the final qualifying session Q3 later on. Because remember, he did do, I think, his best lap time on a set of medium tyres. So, yeah, I think he, probably along with, you know, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, are probably dark horses for later on. But the final finishing order, there you go, completed it now. It's Verstappen P1 from Lando Norris 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, Perez 4th, Leclerc 5th, Gasly 6th, Sainz in 7th, Bottas 8th, Alonso 9th, Ocon 10th, and then the rest of the order outside the top 10 is Tsunoda P11, Stroll P12, Ricciardo P13, Vettel 14th, Russell 15th, Mick Schumacher 16th, and then Latifi, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, and Mazepin complete the rest of the order. So, that is practice 3 for you guys. Was an interesting practice session. I think we've definitely got a lot of talking points to go over when it comes to qualifying later on. But guys, I think now I'm going to come off because I need to get ready for that qualifying stream again. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and for the qualifying watch along that's coming up in about an hour and a half from now. That's when I'll be going live, half an hour before qualifying begins at 1 p.m. UK time. So don't forget to subscribe to that. For that, rather, bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or go to the channel page, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to smash the like button. Comment down below what you thought of the session or the stream in general. Don't forget as well to join my Discord server, link below in the description. That's another great place to be notified as to my videos and streams. And also, we have almost 500 people on that server who talk F1 regularly. Not just about current F1, but all F1 and really all motorsport in general. So if you want to discuss that with other people, then make sure to join my Discord server, link below in the description. And guys, until qualifying and the qualifying watch along later on, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.